We have been programmed in this world not to love ourselves. We've been programmed to be criticized. We have parents who criticize us. We have teachers who criticize us. We have people all around that criticize us. So what does that mean? Every action you take, there's something back there, the program of criticism that says, are you doing it right? Are you doing it right? And then you live by this criticism. When you learn that you're part of spirit as real, then you realize you're a part of everything that is. You're a part of, if you want to say God, how can you be critical of God? And all of a sudden I started to realize I cannot lead my life in that critical nature. I'm going to own who I am. I'm a spirit that has come to this planet to experience and to create and to manifest heaven on earth. And I have now two lives. I have previous learning life, struggle, anger, control, trying to fix everything. And I have post experience, a calmness, an understanding that it's all driven by love. Even if other people can't see through their filter of criticism, you're still driven by love. Every one of you is a piece of all that is. Every one of you. And if that critical mind comes up and says not good enough in any sense, there's a point where you have to stand back and say, that's not me. I am more than the program. And when you let go of that problem of self-criticism, you learn and experience for the first time in your life self-love. And why is this important? Because as I learned through years, I could not love the people around me until I could learn to love myself.
Okay, now what we mean by that, you can't love yourself, you can't love others so you love yourself, really means you can't love others. You don't really have much to give if you don't like yourself. If you're negative about yourself, that's the problem. Being negative about yourself basically robs you of your ability to love. So that's really what that means. You can't love other people if you dislike yourself. Because if you dislike yourself, you think yourself being unworthy. You think yourself as being not good enough, incapable. And if you feel that way about yourself, what do you have to give? Well, you can't have much to give because you're unworthy. You're incapable. You're just a little bit of nothing. So there's nothing in there for you to give. So it's true. If you dislike yourself, if you have negative feelings about yourself, if you feel inadequate, if you feel insecure, that limits your ability to love. So if you have a lot of insecurity and a lot of inadequacy and a lot of negative feelings, then it's hard for you to love.
You and I have been hypnotized and conditioned into believing that we need a reason for joy, that we need a reason to give thanks, we need a reason to feel inspired. That's the old model of reality, of Newtonian physics, of cause and effect. If you can begin to understand that when you begin to change your state of being, that a thought begins to activate new neural networks in your brain. New neural networks in your brain begin to fire and wire to create a hologram or a picture. That hologram or picture signals the limbic brain to make neuropeptides. And neuropeptides are chemical messengers that signal hormones. And hormones and neuropeptides begin to dock on receptor sites of cells. And cells begin to get a new message and signal new genes. And new genes make new proteins. And new proteins means the expression of life just by changing a thought. Because the moment you begin to observe a new future, that's called intention, with an elevated energy, You are causing infinite waves of possibility to begin to collapse into new patterns of information called your life. But if you're observing your life from the same level of mind every day, and you begin to anticipate the next experience based on your past, I'm curious, tell me where the unknown is going to show up in your life. Is there any room for that? We can't keep doing the same things, thinking the same thoughts, performing the same actions, and living by the same emotions and secretly expecting our life to change.
Remember, each of us is walking around in our own reality because of the way we interpret the world. When you feel negative, you interpret the world negatively. You see a negative world. When you're positive and don't have that negativity, you see a world full of potential. Oh, still you see the problems. All the problems are still there, but that's just a bunch of people doing the best they can with what they've got, trying to grow up and actualize their potential. It's a good thing, you see. It's not that you just don't see the problems. You see them, but you see them from the viewpoint of people struggling, trying to grow up and do the right thing. So your reality that you live in goes from a unhappy, painful reality to a pleasant, happy reality just by changing your personal perspective, just by getting rid of your fear.
It was always simple. It was a joke in my head. Somebody would say they love me, and I go, what kind of quality control do these people have? I can't love me. How can they love me? And I would reject and push away the love because I couldn't own it to accept it. And if I could leave one message behind about love, is that you are love. You are a piece of God that came here to create the most beautiful thing in the universe, planet Earth. As we go outside and see nature and the glory of this planet, that's why we can understand how beings from other places are, if anything, jealous not to come here to share in this beauty. So if I could just leave you with this understanding, you came here to create heaven. Other people took away your power by programming you to criticize yourself. Own who you are. You are creators. Own your creativity. Own your spirit. It's not words. It's not devotion. It's a true knowledge. You are spiritual. And that is the opening of life. Because when you are spiritual, then you recognize that everything else is spiritual.
Once that heart opens up and you start having energy in the center and it's releasing 1,300 to 1,400 different chemicals that begin to restore and regenerate the body. The body start getting a lift of energy. Once it makes its here, now you're going to see that track sending in energy to the brain. The heart acts as an amplifier to boost the brain. Are you with me still? Yep. So then once the energy starts making its way into the brain, once the heart starts to open, we've measured this with our students, they have oxytocin levels rise. Once you start feeling oxytocin, when you feel more love. And oxytocin then, when it's released, rushes right into the amygdala, the survival center of the brain, and the research is outstanding. And the first thing it does is it fits in the same receptor sites as fear, and it lowers the volume to fear and anxiety. It shuts the lights out for aggression and anger and hostility, and it cools the circuits off for suffering and pain, and the only thing you can feel is a love for life. And that's when you're free.